Chapter 25. Haben Rance stood in the doorway of the long hut, wiping the sweat from his craggy face and surveying the chattering crowd of men and women in the club area. Like many of them, he had just come from completing his shift of manual labour in the irrigated fields that Kaido, the chief of the Chaemonians, had given to the newcomers to grow their food and graze their herds. They seemed happy enough at the moment, he thought. No sign of the undercurrents of discontent, which seemed to grow stronger as the group enlarged. At the last meeting, he had managed to bring out into the open the resentment many felt towards those who weren't doing their share. New sanctions had been imposed, but it wasn't enough. The sooner they all saw some action, the better. Rance? Rance? He lifted a hand to acknowledge the call, and threaded his way through to get himself a drink before investigating it. That was another thing, he thought as he took a swig. Too much sap wine. The Chaemonians drank it only at feasts, and then rarely to excess. Often the newcomers who were missing from their work were incapable of rising from their beds. "What is it, Medan?" he asked, as he made his way through the work area past the rows of benches, where people were mending or making or adapting all sorts and shapes of electronic apparatus. Medan looked up from his screen and took off his headset. "That lazy Tyke Unger hasn't relieved me. I'm not going to end up doing a double watch again." "What's got into you today?" "I've got a sore head. I need a drink. And I'm missing my wife. Next question?" The vehemence in his voice made a number of nearby heads turn from their task of monitoring the multitudinous Paraconian transmissions and communication links. "Cool down," said Rance. "I'll take over until he comes." Taking Medan's place, he lifted the headset. "Anything to report?" he said. "Not a lot. Spot of interference in the ER matrix, right in the middle of the Lacan." "God help us, not another hunt." "No, there's no transmission, just a—" Medan stopped and nodded towards the screen. "There it is again." Rance recognized the trace immediately. "That's the direction finder. It must be Anya with a new bunch of guests." "We'll run out of huts the way she's going on," said Medan, sloping off towards the drinks. What a miserable son of a pivlong hog. Did nothing ever make him happy? Still, thought Rance, remembering his earlier thoughts, in a way he was right. The settlement was getting uncontrollable. If it got any bigger— His thoughts were interrupted by Medan's raised voice from halfway down the hut, uttering threats seemingly ignored by their intended target. It was Ungar, arriving at last, unshaven and bleary. Rance relinquished the chair. "It's not good enough, you know. If we don't all pull our weight— Yeah, I'm sorry, right? I'm just a few minutes late, that's all. I haven't killed the sacred pig or something." "Well, get on with it. Keep an eye on that frequency and stay awake this time." Better let Kaido know that their precious Mamonia was on her way, thought Rance. He wondered yet again how it could be that Anya was regarded as the ritual mother of the Chaemonian tribe. Then again, why did it matter? It served its purpose. He noticed as he passed that Medan was already downing his second drink. As he crossed the bridge, he became aware of an air of excitement in the Chaemonian village. Little groups of people were talking loudly, waving their hands in the air. There was a lot of laughter. Others were running from hut to hut, as if carrying great news. A small bunch had clustered round the slightly taller figure of Kaido, who was as clearly delighted as the rest. He seemed to be issuing instructions. "Kaido!" called Rance. "What's going on?" Kaido turned, his small brown face beaming, and said in his deep voice, "Big feast tonight. We're killing our fattest deer. Mamonia's coming." With a polite smile and nod, he turned back. "I'll never get to the bottom of these people," said Haben Rance to himself. How the hell did he know that? The Brigadier was doing his best to disguise his panting as controlled deep breathing. He was a little taken aback to discover how out of condition he was. Now that they had traversed the main part of the forest and had started a fairly stiff climb up the bare hillside, the strong, steady pace Anya had been setting since lunchtime was proving somewhat hard, especially on the thigh muscles. He made a mental resolution that when they got back home, if they ever did, a problematical proposition at best, he would resume the morning jog which had served him so well in the past. Apart from anything else, he had to set a good example to the men. Even in the present bizarre situation, he could hardly cry "Pax" before the boy did, and he seemed to have settled down into a sullen trudge that could go on for miles. "Ouch!" said Jeremy, nearly falling over. "Now what?" said the Brigadier. "Twisted my ankle." "Well, for heaven's sake, be more careful. We don't want to have to carry you." "Not my fault. It's all these rocks. I can't keep up, and look where I'm going." The others were disappearing into a small thicket. "Hang on a minute," called the Brigadier. He was quite glad of the excuse, to tell the truth. "All right," he said to Jeremy, who was wiggling his foot experimentally. "I'm sorry," said Anya when they caught up. "I'm apt to forget what it used to be like. I'll slow down a bit." "So, your training was physical as well as spiritual," said the doctor. "It's difficult to disentangle the two. In any case, I've still a long way to go. If I had the skill the tribe think I have, the skill my teacher had, I've tried to tell them, well, I wouldn't need this to find my way." She held up the black box. "What is it?" asked Sarah. "Some sort of direction finder?" Anya nodded. "Calibrated to the ER matrix the entertainments division uses for the hunt. I've programmed it for Kimonya. I'll tell you what," she continued to Jeremy. "Why don't you stay at the front with me? Then we'll be going at your pace, not mine." She turned, consulted the pointer on the box, and dived into the clump of greenery, followed by the sheepish Jeremy. "I wish you joy of him," thought the Brigadier, as he went in behind the doctor and Sarah. After a few minutes of clambering up a steep incline, he could see that where the shrubs finished, the terrain flattened to an open plateau, which extended for 50 meters or more before the upward slope resumed. As the two leaders emerged, the second gave a loud exclamation. "Oof!" he said. "Oh, Jeremy, not again," said Sarah. "A big lizard thingy ran right across my toes," he said plaintively. "Well, it didn't bite them, did it?" his erstwhile guardian said. "Now, please, may we—" "Shh," said the doctor. "Listen." A not-so-distant roar, or was it a squeal, came from the sparse woods which bounded the left of the clearing. "That's no lizard," the doctor said. Anya's eyes were darting to and fro. "Oh, my word, I told you I still had a lot to learn. I nearly led you straight into the territory of a Gargan. Quickly!" As she spoke, she shepherded them all back into the shelter of the bushes. "He's very short-sighted and nearly deaf," she said, hardly speaking above a whisper, in spite of her words. "But his sense of smell— Here he comes!" The nearest thing in size the Brigadier had ever seen was in the Natural History Museum, a dinosaur skeleton. The doctor said quietly, "I haven't seen teeth as big as that since the last Tyrannosaurus I met." "Tyrannosaurus, that was the fellow," thought the Brigadier. "Entirely different shape, though. This chap had short, sturdy back legs and walked on his knuckles like a gorilla. He had a long, curved neck, so that he could hold his head close to the ground, like a bloodhound hot on the trail. But it was only when he stopped and raised his extended muzzle high in the air to give his squealing bellow that you could really see the crocodile rows of massive teeth. "What a handsome animal," breathed the doctor. "Handsome?" His tracking brought him perilously near to their hiding place. For an interminable breath-holding age, he snuffled round the spot where Jeremy and Anya had been standing. Then, with another roar, he set off again, disappearing into the woods on the right. "He's gone after that lizard thingy," said Jeremy, in a high, small voice. "But why didn't he sniff us out?" said Sarah, in a voice not much bigger. "If he's so good at scenting things, we were only a few feet away." The Gargan's roar came again, from a more comfortable distance. The Brigadier found that he was still holding his breath. He let it out as unobtrusively as he could manage. "We're outside his territory," said Anya in reply to Sarah. "He builds a sort of cave, you see. Yes, look, you can just see it over there." And she pointed to the far side of the clearing, where the slope on the left became a cliff. Against the face of the cliff there was what seemed to be a pile of stones like an enormous cairn, several times larger than the Gargan himself. "And he marks out his domain with a line of rocks," Anya continued. "And if any creature steps within its boundaries, he'll follow its scent until he finds it and eats it. He never gives up. He'd starve first." The Brigadier looked across the plateau. Yes, there was a line of small rocks extending from the Gargan's lair right round the open space. Amongst the litter of stone, it wasn't immediately noticeable unless you were looking for it. And what's more, he thought, at its nearest, it's only a couple of feet away from where we stopped. "Yes," said Anya, following his gaze. "If we'd put a foot over that line, we'd all be dead." "It was always the same," Sarah said to herself as they toiled up yet another steep slope. "You thought you'd got to the top, and there would be another summit waiting for you, even higher, and then another, and another." "Well, I don't mind telling you I'm pooped," said Jeremy. "Oh, do stop whinging," said Sarah. It was even getting the doctor down. "I should both save your breath if I were you," he said shortly. They struggled up the last rocky incline, all tired, all irritable, except for Anya, who had bounded up the last few crags like a mountain goat. "Oh, shut up," Sarah said to herself, "as if I could care less about clichés at a time like this." Anya stood on the crest of the hill and waited for the others. "There you are," she said, with an expansive gesture. "Kimonya, the land in the sky." Laid out below them like an eastern carpet woven in green and gold, the valley was shaped like a shallow bowl in the midst of the surrounding hills. A silver ribbon of water wound through the two toy villages, breaking at last into golden glints of sunlight reflected from the wavelets on a lake as blue as the arching sky. It was the doctor who put into words how Sarah felt, how all of them felt, maybe. "Perhaps we've all come home," he said. Jeremy broke the silence. "Hey, look at those whooping great birds!" The Brigadier squinted into the sun. "Not birds, boy," he thought. "Bats! 6 or more. Giant bats." Anya was laughing in delight. "It's Kaido and his people coming to meet us." What? He should be used to it by now. The vast range of alien races, after the catalogue of shapes and sizes he'd encountered in his time with UNIT. But still... "You mean that the Kimonya tribe are bats?" he said. No, Brigadier," said the doctor. "They're riding them." By now he could see this for himself. The creatures were not exactly the same as the bats he was used to. Their faces were more like cats. But like their earthly counterparts, they were covered with fur, albeit of a golden yellow colour, and had leathery wings spanning some 20 feet. Sitting astride each neck was a small figure dressed in a soft leather tunic, holding on to the ears, which served as a means of control, as the Brigadier could see as they all came in to land nearby. When the leading rider jumped off, He saw that far from being a boy, as he had assumed, he had the face of a middle-aged man, and when he spoke in a surprisingly deep voice, a voice which had the ring of authority. "Greetings, Mamonia," he said, holding out both hands. "Our mother has returned to us." "Greetings, Kaido," she replied, and lightly touched his outstretched hands. "I return with great happiness. I bring more friends to greet you." The doctor stepped forward, copying Kaido's gesture. "Greetings," he said. Kaido smiled and touched the doctor's hands. "I give a welcome to the friends of Mamonia. You have weak legs." Sarah stifled a giggle. Pretty strange way of greeting strangers, thought the brigadier. Anya laughed. "He means that you look tired. He's offering you a lift down to the village." "On the bats?" Sarah said. "I'm game." The doctor said, "What are we waiting for? Thank you, Kaido." Bit of a dicey proposition, thought the brigadier. Still, he'd try anything once. "There isn't a saddle or anything," said Jeremy. "Hang on to the fur," said the brigadier. As they climbed aboard, one per animal sitting behind the rider, he thought of the long-gone days when, as a young subaltern, he'd been stationed in Leicestershire and had ridden to hounds with some of the fashionable hunts. "If the Quorn could see me now," he said to himself, as they took off in a great flurry of flapping. "Whee!" cried Sarah as they swept into the sky. "I couldn't have put it better myself," thought Brigadier Lethbridge Stewart.